Good morning. This is our 12th session of Ilchot Shabbat. The chapters up to chapter 260 in Shulchan Aruch keep talking about hatmana, which is wrapping pots with blankets or other materials and placing them not on a stove to keep their warmth on Shabbat. This is not practiced today. In chapter 260, the Shulchan Aruch speaks about getting ready for Shabbat and says that one should wash his face, hands, and feet with hot water on Friday in honor of Shabbat. This is an interesting case where we see the difference, the change in the conditions of life, standards of living from the time of the Shulchan Aruch till today, because at the time of the Shulchan Aruch, not everybody could afford to have water to wash their whole body for Shabbat. So he says at least your hands, feet, and face. Another interesting anecdote that highlights the way people think about halakha. The Hebrew text of this halakha is Yirchotz panav yadav v'raglav behamin. One must wash face, hands, and feet with hot water. But the word used for hot water, hamin, was later borrowed by the general population to refer to the cholent or to the tabid, dafina, schina, whatever people use for Shabbat. The hot food was called hamin. A friend of mine who became Baal Teshuvah as a teenager learned this halakha, and he went to his mother and says, "Could you please give me some of the hamin that you made for Shabbat so I could wash my face?" And she, of course, got very upset. She yelled at him, says, "You with your stupid laws, where did you get it from?" And he told me that later when he realized that how he was wrong about this halakha. But what we learn from here is that sometimes people would read the halakha or a religious text and will take it literally, even if it makes no sense, and will not bother to look into the sources and the interpretation to understand really what is the matter there. So always you have to make this research and analysis to understand what is really the meaning of the halakha if it doesn't make sense. In Saif Bet, Shulchan Aruch notes that one has to remind the members of the household before Shabbat to get ready, but he says Yish'al anshe beto belashon raka. Do it gently. Don't get into fights. Don't get into tension just because you want everybody to be ready for Shabbat. In chapter 261, the Shulchan Aruch discusses Zman hadlakat hanerot Shabbat. When do you light candles? So today, for most people, there's no question. You check the calendar. They're either printed calendars or you could use Hebcal, HEBCAL.com, Hebrew calendar, where you could create your own calendar. They will give you options of when do you want the Shabbat to start. Do you want it 18 minutes, 20 minutes, or 40 minutes before sunset? But everybody agrees that it's you add a certain period from before sunset. But the official time for Shabbat to start is Hashicha. Hashicha is darkness, and that takes a little while after sunset to have darkness. But because we don't want to get into the ambiguous region, the literally the twilight zone, we stop doing forbidden activities before twilight. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch says, Safek Hashicha, V'u ben hashmashot, En me'asrin et avadai, V'en madbilim et hakerin. Following the Mishnah, it says once you get into the twilight zone, which when you doubt whether it's total darkness or not, you don't do anything that is forbidden on Shabbat. In Saif Bet, he says, Yesh omorim, shetzarich leosif mehor ala kodesh. Some poskim say that you have to add to Shabbat, you have to extend Shabbat before and after into the mundane world. So, and he says as Yesh Omrim, some say, because not everybody agrees. Maimonides disagrees with that. So when we look at the time of candlelighting as we have it today, it's the doubtful time of twilight zone, and then an extension into Friday where we go 18 minutes before sunset. So the earliest, the latest that the calendar will mark candle lighting will be 18 minutes before sunset. So, as a general rule, wherever you are, if you don't have a calendar, you could look at your phone or you could go online and look for sunset times and do 18 minutes before that. But also, it's important to know that when people say, oh, you still have 18 minutes, that's what they mean, because you still have 18 minutes until Shkia. I'm referring to the what is today common knowledge, that they will say, oh, if you didn't have time to light candles on time, on the time that is published in the calendars, you could go another 18 minutes. And they say that because the time published in the calendars is 18 minutes before sunset. So even if you pass that and you go all the way to sunset, you're still good. In case someone is stuck, is really in a situation that we might not call emergency, but it's inconvenient. Let's say, for example, that someone is driving home before Shabbat and is stuck in a dangerous neighborhood. We spoke about when I spoke of transportation on Shabbat. Then it's preferable to continue at least until it's almost darkness, because that time is safek. We're not sure if it's dark or not, and one could rely, if necessary, again, not on a regular basis, but if necessary, if one is really in a dire situation, one can rely on the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam is famous as the more strict opinion regarding the ending on Shabbat. Many people wait until after Shabbat, another 45 or 70 minutes until the regular time of Tzeta Shabbat to end Shabbat, and they say that they follow the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. But Rabbeinu Tam did not address Motzei Shabbat only. He spoke about darkness in general. According to him, it's later than the time that we consider darkness, almost 70 minutes after sunset. The scholars today debate that, how is it possible, and some want to argue that Rabbeinu Tam's perception of darkness depended on his location, because he lived in Europe. He thought darkness falls there later than in the Middle East, so one should be careful with that. But if we take darkness as the yardstick, darkness is about 35 minutes 35 minutes after sunset. So one can still, in a case of a serious emergency, again, not life-threatening, could maybe rely on that. It's interesting, again, to look at the seat in life, the life conditions at the time of the Shulchan Aruch in 261.3. He says, "Mi she'eno baki b'shiur zeh, yadlik be'or shashemesh b'rosh ha'inanot." If you don't know when is darkness, when is twilight, you should light the candles when the sun is still is seen on the treetops. So this is a very subjective yardstick. What do you have? High trees, tall trees, short trees, brushes, or im yom ha'me'unan, if it's a cloudy day, you light the candles when the roosters start sitting on the beams before Shabbat. So just to understand, we are dealing today, we have the technology to measure time accurately, and sometimes it drives us crazy because people look at the clock for minutes and seconds for either the beginning of Shabbat or beginning of prayer. You have to have in mind that those things were a little more fluid, more flexible in the past. And if you don't have a watch, you don't have a calendar, you don't have internet, just go outside. And if it's not totally dark, it's not Shabbat yet. One more thing about Adlakat Nerot, and we'll speak more about it tomorrow. The Shulchan Aruch says that one could start Shabbat earlier, but in Seif Yud, in 263.10, he says that קצת נשים נוהגות אחר שבירכו והדליקו הנרות משליכות לארץ הפתילה שבידן. Some women consider candle lighting to be Kabbalat Shabbat, meaning that the moment you light the candles, even if you lit them a little before Shabbat, it is considered Shabbat for you. And he says, therefore, some women, once they said the bracha and they lit the candles, they throw the wick with which they lit the candles, because they didn't have matches, they throw it to the ground and they don't put it out. So what we see here from the Shulchan Aruch, that he considers the order of candle lighting is to first say the bracha and then light candles, which some people challenged recently. So we'll talk about this tomorrow, but it's clear from the Shulchan Aruch that the woman could say the bracha first, then light the candles. But even when she did that and she lit the candles, there is an opinion that she did not accept Shabbat yet. If she does it early before Shabbat, it's not Shabbat for her yet. And the application is that if she needs to travel somewhere after candle lighting and she wants to light candles at home and it's safe to light at home, she could do that, state that she's not accepting Shabbat with Adlakat Nerot, and then do what needs to be done. And we'll continue with candle lighting tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. Have a great day.